Officers Ryan Hardy and Matthew O'Connor sat in court as the man prosecutors say shot them in 2016 went before a judge.
At the time that you committed these two attempted murders, were you suffering from some sort of mental disease or defect?
Yes.
Ian McPherson pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity today and will be sent to the secure psychiatric unit of the state prison for a minimum of 5 years. He will then be reevaluated, but could potentially be there for life. It was in May of 2016 that prosecutors say McPherson robbed the gas station. The next night, Officer Hardy stopped McPherson for questioning.
He reached into his trench coat around his waistline and asked me to pull out a semi-automatic pistol. He raised it up to Officer Hardy's face and he pulled the trigger.
Hardy was shot in the face, neck, and back. About a half hour later, Officer O'Connor was shot in the leg. McPherson was eventually arrested and during his first interview said he knew nothing about police officers being shot and claimed he didn't own a gun. Prosecutors say his second interview was much different.
The defendant claimed that somebody else was making his mouth move. He kept talking about somebody he referred to as a boss who was using software to sabotage us.
It's a really bad mixture. Delusional, paranoid thinking, and a .40 caliber handgun. It's a very sad case.
Both officers Hardy and O'Connor have returned to duty, but they had no comment after today's court hearing.